Okay. It's only been a few days since reports surfaced around the Evil Genius's alleged...
today?
Thank you, our Fireball. I'm actually excited for LCS today for sure. Okay. So, let's see. Richard Lewis shed even more light on the situation, what supposedly led to the 19-year-old's abrupt departure from the professional scene. In Lewis's extensive reports, sources suggest Annie began feeling extremely stressed from the MSI Invitational, where he was on the receiving end of negative comments on social media, along with intense practice schedule. During the event, concerns arose from the talented marksman's mental health, but EG Performance told members not to discuss the situation with him. But EG's performance team told what? Okay. Since the management told coaches and players to leave Danny alone, however, the former star decided if he wasn't going to be given a break, he would rather retire from pro play altogether. During the first week of 2022 LCS Summer Playoff, sources say the young star was openly telling the EG staff he wanted to stop playing professionally. One of the performance team members allegedly said in response, "This is just what having an autistic player was like, and that the players would just have to bear it." Wow, okay. According to the report, EG was initially open to the player taking a break from play and even had doubts around his proposed retirement. The management was supposedly worried that the young gun was instead looking to join another team, and the members of the upper staff focused on convincing Danny not to retire and then possibly selling him to another team. Ultimately, Danny decided to step away from the pro scene entirely and went relatively quiet until this past week, when he finally announced that he'd finished streaming underneath the Evil Geniuses creator collective. EG has yet to respond to accusations levied against them by League fans. Okay, so the only thing that I can talk about in regards to like teammates with Danny, okay? I like Danny a lot. You guys know that he's a longtime sub in the stream. I've engaged with him several times, like on stream. He's been on for co-streams. We've talked in DMs. I've even talked with him like personally, like on a real phone, like not Discord or something like that. I've actually talked to him because in the off season of me going to C9, okay, from talking to several NA players, there was many statements that a lot of teammates of Danny did not actually like him. And so I thought that was the actual belief. So this is prior to me joining C9, but I was asking him what he was going to be doing, like just in regards with everything. And he told me that he didn't feel like the stories that I was hearing was true, but I felt like there's no way that I'm hearing these stories incorrectly, right? Because what was happening is there was a legitimate chance where it was going to be double lift Vulcan for EG going into 2022, and Danny I think didn't seem to know about this or something like this, and so I had talked about this with Danny, and that apparently some other EG players did not like Danny. Because of like personality stuff. Danny told me this was not actually the case, and that he got along fine with some of the teammates. But as someone who has had relationships like this, where you think that you're fine with people, but they're not actually fine with you, you know, I can understand what that is like, when you can take people at face value and just believe that, you know, what is being said is actually legitimate. So, I'm not actually sure. I mean, I can read the article on Twitter. Okay, on April 24th, Evil Geniuses shocked North American League of Legends by winning the LCS Spring Playoffs. With a team effort, many of the Plundons, okay. They lost their opening playoff match to Cloud9 3-1 and then limped through the next two matches against TSM and TL 3-2. Many noticed that Danny was making uncharacteristically bad plays and was underperforming. On September 6th, Evil Genius issued a statement saying that the players would be taking a break due to the problems surrounding their mental health. The organization commended Danny's courage and self-awareness. The announcement confirmed the official broadcast, and the Evil Geniuses team lost narrowly to 100 Thieves 3-2 with Hassan Kauri Centurk filling in. In a shocking reveal, sources who worked with Evil Geniuses organization have confirmed the player's mental health and physical health was left unattended for so long that when he returned home, the family immediately sent the player to a doctor as he was suffering from malnutrition. They say this was allowed to happen despite multiple staff and players raising the concerns about Danny's deteriorating mindset and health. The same sources state that the issue was deemed serious enough that the LCS Players Association was contacted about the matter. The sources have requested anonymity from this report due to the concerns of the retaliation from the Evil Geniuses organization. What was not known to the public was that Danny has a medical condition that places him on the autistic spectrum, and this can make handling stress more difficult. Evil Geniuses were aware of this when they signed the player, and according to our sources, they had pledged to offer assistance as the player learned to deal with the new spotlight he found himself in, as well as the demanding expectations placed on him. Initially, the organization was aware of his condition and did what they could to support it. One of the sources explained, a lot of his problems got worse, and so stress, for example, they even hired a coach specifically to work with him. Over time, the management seemed less and less interested in helping him cope with the pressure, and eventually their strategy was to hope the problem went away. A lot of people around me do the same thing. If you guys have been a follower of my stream for many years, you might have heard me refer to the barking dog analogy, where as someone that had, especially many years ago compared to nowadays how I am, I used to have very, very bad stress management. And I have very disorganized and fearful attachment styles that stem from, obviously, my upbringing, my adolescence, and constantly just moving around homes, lots of betrayals from people in my earlier lives, which leads to instability in like all relationships that I have, including friendships, which leads to me asking for lots of reaffirmation and like questions, and constantly realizing that I can't really accurately read people's emotions very well, and so I constantly ask, are you okay? What are you thinking? Like, and this is very problematic even with myself. But one of the things that I ended up noticing is that a lot of people would start to treat me like a barking dog. You guys might remember from the Dr. K series that this was one of the analogies that I would use, and that when I was having my symptoms, people would just tend to ignore me and disappear until the symptoms went away. Sort of like if a dog is just barking, you leave the dog alone in a room or something, or you just put it outside and then it stops barking and then you want to play with it again. And so I really resonate a lot with that sentence, because that's what I have felt most of my life with a lot of relationships that I've had, is the barking dog analogy. Anyways, while it's the public perception that the problems only manifested in summer split, sources explain the situation had been escalating for some time and didn't go unnoticed. It all began during MSI, a source said. Danny was stressed out at MSI because of the comments that were being made on Reddit and other shit. After MSI, the team had a 1 or 2 week break, and people started to get concerned about Danny's mental state. Even before then, being told just not to talk to him about it by the performance team. Statement seems to be corroborated by comments Danny made on Twitter via Twitter after the tournament ended. Upon losing, he tweeted that he was glad it's over, and added that he has been playing 5 straight months of competitive League of Legends with scrims, Riot features official matches, lock-in, regular season playoffs, Houston, MSI, group, stage, etc., etc., and everyone hates you, man. I would really like to take a small break. These comments enough should have prompted question and concern from any managerial structure. However, according to sources, they were ignored, and the situation would continue to get worse for the player. The sources went on to explain that within Evil Geniuses, there are individual groups of coaches that were dedicated to the game relevant to their expertise. These individual groups would have to work with the dedicated performance team that would float between all the teams and players on the roster. Many in the performance team would not be on site with the players, and sometimes obtaining answers or support from them could be proved to be challenging. Is that okay? A source informed us that it wasn't uncommon for one staff member to take time off with sickness, not knowing they follow their partner on social media so that they could that they were wait, what? A source informed us that it wasn't uncommon for one staff member to take time off with sickness, not knowing that they followed their partner on social media and could see that they were together at nights out during the same time period. So this would ultimately be like, someone in staff would be saying that, they're calling in sick to work, but then they're out with their partner later that night. Honestly, as an adult or something, I feel like that's possible. Like, this is not fucking elementary school where if you don't go to school, then your parents ground you for the entire day. You can wake up feeling sick or having symptoms, right? And then after a couple of hours or taking medication or even that night, you could be fine. I don't think that's that bad. I think that you could call out of work in the morning because you are feeling shit, and then at night you are feeling fine, or even a couple of hours later. Anyways, In regards to the matter of Danny's health deteriorating, the management repeatedly instructed both coaches and players to avoid pushing the matter and to leave it with them without any resolution forthcoming. According to our sources, it was at this point that the player realized that if he couldn't get a break, he would instead retire from esports entirely. When it came to Danny, the upper management repeatedly said to leave him as is, and so that was what the coaching staff did. A source said there was no one making shit happen regarding the situation. He had told everyone a week before the C9 game that he didn't want to play anymore. One member of the performance team said that this was just what having an autistic player was like, and that the players would just have to bear with it. When pushed, they said that it wasn't their responsibility. Jesus. He was only saying that EG staff in the first week of playoffs that he wanted to retire, a source continued. The team wanted him to take a rest because it's not fair for 4 players to have to play with someone who doesn't want to win. The EG management was against them subbing in another player. They wanted Danny to play on and on. When matters comes ahead of prospective team implosion and senior staff members, this is really long. Oh my lord, this is super long. Wow, this is super long. Okay, we will keep going. How long do we have until this game resumes? We still have time. Okay, this is super long. Okay, let's see. Okay. Jeez. Wow. Okay. We were told, okay. These comments from the question, okay, the sources, and the matter of, the manager repeatedly instructed both players and coaches to avoid pushing the matter. According to our sources, it was at this point the player realized that if he couldn't get a break, he would instead retire from esports entirely. When it came to Danny, the upper manager repeatedly said, we read this. He was only saying to EG staff in the first week, we read this as well. With matters coming to a head and the prospect of the team implosion, senior staff members directly addressed the issue. They were not initially receptive to the player taking time off and had doubts that he would actually retire. I still had hopes of earning a return on the player by selling him to another team if such a deal could be brokered. Members of the upper management went to the League of Legends staff after they complained, and the first thing they mentioned about why Danny had to keep playing was market value. A source said that if they could sell Danny during the offseason, it would be a benefit for the year after. They were going to try and drag out more time so they could convince him not to retire and then sell him to another team. This is a very scummy but legitimate business practice that happens in NA. Obviously, generally when a team is trying to sell you a star player, you do always have to immediately raise the concern and ask the question, why? But anyways, they seemed concerned that Danny might be lying and just wanting to join another team. I don't know why. I mean, that seems really weird. Like, where's he going to go? He's not going to go to Cloud9. He's not going to go to Team Liquid. I don't think Danny wants to join a bottom tier team. So, like, where realistically would Danny want to go? The really funny thing is that before I joined C9 and I was like having conversations about Danny because of the rumors that I was hearing at EG, Danny didn't want to join the C9 roster. There was a proposed C9 roster which involved Nemesis in mid, Fudge in top lane, Blabber, Danny at support, and then eventually moving Sven to support. And that was one of the proposed rosters. Danny didn't even want to go to that because he actually had so much loyalty to EG. So that was a proposed roster. This is before I joined C9. This is maybe end of October or like early November, when I'm talking to Danny. And he didn't want to do it. He said he thought the team would win. He actually said that all the players were insane and he thought the team would just win. But he said that he really liked it at EG and that he just wanted to stay on EG as an org. And so he didn't want to join C9 even for that roster. If Danny wasn't willing to leave EG for that roster, he's not willing to leave for any other roster that's in NA. There's no fucking way. But anyways, and so that was like, and also Danny not, agreeing to join, I think actually stalled everything, because I think that had we had that roster, I think everything would have started. I don't care that draft started. It's an LCK draft. It's going to be the same thing. We're going to finish this. They also added the same upper management was concerned about public perceptions as they had, multiple sources confirmed that the matter was resolved after Evil Geniuses came to talk to Danny directly, and it was after this that the players agreed that he would play until Chicago, where the LCS finals would be hosted. Regardless of what was agreed upon in that conversation, Danny was still characterized by our sources as unhappy, and they said they continued to be concerning quite openly. Okay. Another former staff member of Evil Geniuses that we interviewed told us that they weren't surprised that claims management didn't prioritize the well-being of players. During their time there, they saw similar disregard paid to the CSGO team. During COVID, in the middle of the pandemic, they sent the CSGO team to Serbia, where no one wore a mask, and they had them retroactively sign terms like they had instructed them to. Take safety measures from the beginning. That's bullshit. They put in the team in the position, and the players all got COVID from it because they skimped on paying for good accommodation and other basic things. Speculation begins to mount after leaked messages. Clip's not available. Situation regarding Danny came to a public on December 1st. Mark Robert Cadrell Lamont was sent a series of direct messages from an anonymous associates of the player's sister. He then read those messages on his stream, prompting speculation into whether or not there was more to the situation than meets the eye. EG isn't all love and family as they make it seem. Omar was actually talking to someone from the Players Association. We tell him all the time. Reach out to Jacqueline, Danny's sister, about these messages. She declined to comment at this time. We were able to discuss the contents of these messages with our sources. The messages deemed to be important enough for I don't know how to pronounce I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'm so sorry. To put out a video statement describing the revelation of the leaked messages as an emotional morning. The organization, we care a lot about taking care of our athletes, she said, and it's a pretty shitty situation to be in because of HIPAA and legal employee constraints. I can't say much. I can't give transparency, etc. So she makes this tweet, okay? Here refers to Health Insurance Act, a group of laws that are designed to protect patients from having their medical information disclosed by a healthcare provider. Contacted a representative from the LCS Players Association to ask for a statement regarding the matter. They told us our official statement is that the Players Association works to support all players. As soon as we were made aware of them through medical directorship with Mayo Clinic, but we did not comment on specific cases. Given the nature of this report, reach out to Danny's parents to make them aware of its contents. They declined to comment at this time. Of course they do. Since work began on this article, another journalist, Duncan Shield, part of this video making a similar allegation. I want to tell you this is completely on me and the accusations are true. And that this prompted Danny to make a thing. At the same time issuing the denials, he also announced that he'd been moved from the player contract onto a new contract creator, part of Evil Geniuses Creator Collective. The details of the contract aren't known, and our sources stated that there had been ongoing discussion between the player's family and the organization's management prior to the announcement. Evil Geniuses is not able to respond to comment. Okay. So that's it. Okay. So, end conclusions is there's obviously a lot more to the story than meets the eye. There is a lot more stuff like what's going on with Danny that happens behind the scenes where players with known mental health problems are signed by teams with the teams knowing about the person's mental health problems, saying that they'll do X, Y, and Z or A, B, and C, you know, D, E, F, and fucking G. And then they don't do it. And then they try to actually utilize the fact that the person is mentally ill against them. There's been many cases of me bringing instances of this to Riot in private over the years. I think that a lot of players could probably testify to the fact that I was sort of like a confidant, or like a fucking dark confidant almost in a way for a lot of players behind the scenes from various regions that would try to raise concern to Riot, including even in LCK where physical abuse allegations were very legitimate and even on recording. And ended up having to be raised to Riot Korea in like private. So this type of shit happens all the time. You guys already know about the instances with, you know, that I personally experienced on Gravity. You guys know about the selfie incident. The full audio clip of the selfie incident from MYM was never made public. However, there are a handful of people that do have it. The other main thing that I would point out about the Evil Geniuses and Danny, and it's actually fucking mind-blowing how this is not brought up in any of these articles, neither by Richard Lewis or Thorin, is the Bang incident. And obviously what I'm referring to by Bang is the series of tweets that he made on Twitter about his depression and mental illness, as well as comments that he was frequently making on Twitter and elsewhere, and then later deleting the tweets. And I had actually reached out to EG because I also reached out to Bang at that time in Korean and in English with a translated message, like willing to talk to him and whatnot. And I mean, it's just, it's very weird. Everything's just very weird. I wish I could say more, but at this point in time, I really can't. So that's it for this.